In the 1970s, American manufacturers ruled the world. General Motors, General Electric, Xerox, they were fat, bloated, arrogant empires of industrial dominance. And then, slowly at first, and then all at once, Japanese companies started eating them alive. Not with better technology, not with bigger budgets, not with flashier marketing, with a philosophy, a relentless, obsessive, never ending philosophy of incremental improvement called Kaizen. And Canon was one of the most devastating practitioners. This isn't a business story. This is a story of how culture weaponized discipline and brought Western manufacturing to its knees. Hello, I'm Todd Hagopian, the original Stagnation Assassin. Today, we're opening the vault on Canon's implementation of Kaizen in the 1970s, the continuous improvement system that transformed a camera company into a global technology conqueror. And we're going to see if it was a strategic slaughter or a stagnation suicide. Spoiler, this one is a kill clinic. Let's look at the stagnation score. The pre-Kaizen Western manufacturing landscape stagnation score, 9 out of 10 for corporate cancer. This was peak stagnation. American and European manufacturers had been dominant for so long that they confused market position with market competitiveness. Xerox was charging premium prices for copiers with a 30% defect rate. 30%. American car manufacturers were producing vehicles that fell apart within 5 years while spending more on executive bonuses than they were on quality control. The corporate cancer was so advanced, it had metastasized into the culture itself. Good enough became the mantra. If it ain't broke, don't fix it became the strategy. These companies weren't just stagnant, they were actually celebrating their stagnation. So let's look at the tactical audit. Canon's Kaizen implementation was probably the most perfect real world execution of continuous improvement on an infinite loop I've ever seen. Canon created systems where every employee from the factory floor to the C suite was responsible for identifying efficiencies. Not once a quarter during an innovation session, not once a month, every single day. They built an organizational nervous system that was constantly scanning for waste, defects, and delay. When an inefficiency was found, it wasn't filed in a report and sent to a committee. It was attacked immediately. Small teams, rapid experiments, fast implementation. Canon empowered the frontline workers to make changes without waiting for bureaucratic approval. That is the 70% rule in its purest form. Act now with good enough data and then refine. Every improvement became the new baseline. There was no victory laps, no mission accomplished. The moment one problem was solved, the standard was raised and the cycle began again. And this is what separates Kaizen from every Western quality initiative that came and went like corporate fashion trends. Now, layer in the Karelin method. Canon didn't just apply Kaizen gently, they applied it with relentless, unconventional force. While Xerox was making incremental pricing adjustments, Canon was making thousands of micro improvements per year across every function. The cumulative effect was devastating, like being hit with 1,000 small punches that individually seem harmless but collectively break every bone in your entire body. And here's the result. Canon entered the copier market as a nobody, and they systematically dismantled Xerox's dominance. They produced copiers that were smaller. They produced copiers that were cheaper, more reliable, and required less maintenance. They didn't beat Xerox with one big innovation. They beat Xerox with 10,000 small ones. But let's look at the hindsight homicide. Canon's hindsight homicide. Kaizen's kryptonite is disruption. Continuous improvement optimizes what exists. It makes the current better, but it struggles to create the fundamentally new. Canon became so good at perfecting existing products that it was slow to see the digital disruption coming. And when digital photography began to replace film, Canon's Kaizen culture, built on optimizing manufacturing process, was initially poorly suited to a world where software mattered more than hardware. They eventually adapted, but the transition was painful. the very discipline that made them dominant from rigid when the game changed entirely, made them too rigid. Kaizen is a scalpel. Sometimes you need a wrecking ball. And that's why the Stagnation Assassin framework includes both the continuous improvement method and the orthodoxy smashing innovation. You need continuous improvement and periodic destruction in order to live for 100 years. The verdict, I'm giving Canon Kaizen 4.5 out of 5 kills. This is as close to perfection as process improvement gets. Canon took a philosophy, they weaponized it, and they used it to dismantle Western industrial empires that had been dominant for an entire century. This was continuous improvement in an infinite loop, the Karelin method applied to manufacturing, the 80-20 matrix used to identify and eliminate waste with forensic precision. The half-kill deduction is for the disruption blind spot. Even the best systems need a self-destruct button. They will not last forever. That's the autopsy. Canon proved that 1,000 small improvements beat one big idea every single time. If you want to build a Kaizen level continuous improvement machine in your business, head to toddhagopian.com and look up the 3A method for continuous improvement. Grab the unfair advantage on Amazon and visit stagnationassassins.com for the world's largest stagnation database. And remember, continue to declare war on stagnation every day and every week here with me.